Jim? Jim, what are you doing?
Talking to the frog.
You're talking to a frog?
Of course.
We are in Northern California redwoods for a very specific purpose. Over the last year or so, we've been having these communications with the elementals, and they've been inviting us to come specifically here to do a certain piece of work.
What's that? No, I'm kidding. So this period of time in the summer in the redwoods is really quite extraordinary. Actually, any time in the redwoods is quite extraordinary. But with all the earth changes, with all the shift that we're engaged in, the elementals are a very significant part of that. And the messaging that they've been saying is we want to talk about this shifting time and what it means to them and how they're engaged in this process. So far we've had a couple of experiences.
And I saw you talking to a frog.
Yeah. Doesn't everybody talk to frogs?
So what was this conversation?
So this was an interesting conversation I've had with the frog and a number of other elementals, but the frog was explaining real clearly that the animals that are going extinct aren't really going extinct. Extinct is your word, is what they were saying, the frog particularly. Everything, all of these animals are shifting into a higher frequency of resonance, just like we're shifting into a higher frequency of resonance. But it's not disturbing to the animals. They're just simply changing. And this is really what's available to humans, but humans aren't quite getting it yet. But for those of you who we're talking to, this shift is very much engaged in a stepping up of frequencies. It's like changing from channel 4 to channel 5 on the television. Channel 5 has no idea that channel 4 exists. But there's a bridging that's going on in this shifting. And the bridging is basically raising the vibration to a higher frequency and just moving from more or less one valley in Earth to another valley in the Earth, just climbing up the mountainside in a transition from point A to point B. But the frog was really very clear that over the past numbers of years, this shifting has been taking place in the relationship to the animals.
And so as they're moving into the fifth dimension, us humans in the third are not able to see them because they're
changing channels, if you would. They're basically going to another thing. Now there's a whole bunch of things that we'll talk about over the next few weeks, but one of those is that as humans begin to become more conscious, as you begin to become more aware of yourself in present time is the key to everything. And in this present time space, the ability to perceive different experiences are beginning to be more and more available to you. As you begin to perceive the different experiences, I'm talking about real subtle things, not gigantic experiences, but you just begin to perceive well-being differently, you perceive ease differently, or you start to recognize that being angry isn't an important part of your life in real terms. Those are conscious awarenesses, but as those begin to change, there are two things in particular we'll talk about next time. And that is, you're starting to begin to have access to these vibrations within, particularly within regard to the animals, to where the communication with the animals is beginning to be more prevalent. And that was one of the things that the frog again was saying in that conversation, is you're going to begin to talk to us. And we have a lot of things to tell you, particularly around ease in this transition. It is not a dramatic or traumatic event if you just begin to get into that present time space of, his word was migrating. We're migrating into a different vibrational frequency. It's as if the animals move to the higher pastures to graze in the summertime because the grasses are more fertile. And so this is what it was saying in regard to many of the animals. We just basically move to higher vibrational frequencies in that period of time.
So a question people are going to have is, how do I talk to them?
Well, it's not a how do you talk to them. It's just going to happen. So it's really a matter of, if you live in a box and you want to be out of the box, you have to step out of the box. And so what the frog was saying real clearly is, it's a migration process. It's just simply kind of climbing up the mountainside to begin to have more fertile lands. And in each one of those vibrational configurations, you just have communication.
Okay.
Everything just begins to happen. And so that's where, particularly in this relationship to animals, that's all changing. The other thing that's changing is that people are going to begin to find that you have a different relationship to your dream space. And in your dream space, you're going to just start to find more ease, particularly in that waking space when you remember dreams, coming back into the body. And so, but we'll talk about that also. So we're off to go and look at really big redwood trees. I mean, like the really big ones. And so we'll bring the camera and let people see what Northern California redwoods are. Cool.